It's found on page 416. 416.
There's more where they're ready to understand.
Here you go. 416. Parsha Mishpatim. 416. The word Mishpatim, the word Mishpat, means laws, judgments. Usually, when you deal with Mishpat, law, or a judgment, usually you do with some degree of logic. You use your head to figure things out. And we're going to learn that's not the case over here at all. And let's begin. And these are the ordinances, the mishpatim, the laws, Ela mishpatim, that you shall place before them asher tasim lifnehem. So what does it mean asher tasim lifnehem? That you have to the point of putting a tasim lifnehem is that you have to place it in front of them. So obviously that means if you're a teacher, like Moshe Rabbeinu was a teacher, so you have to teach it in such a way asher tasim lifnehem, that it's in front of you. You place it in front of the people, so that the people can understand it clearly. Who knows the Hebrew name for the Code of Jewish Law?
What?
The Hebrew name, for the book called the Code of Jewish Law. Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch. What does it mean, Shulchan Aruch? Prepare table. That means it's a table, everything's on it, all you need. Right on. So, the idea is that when you teach law, there is a belief of intricacies, details, pratei dinim. The reason there is pratim is because no two cases are alike. No two people are alike. People are different. Situations are different. And to really understand the law properly is to understand how they apply in each case. There is a basic, there's a rule, but then the rules change, not on the basis of the law, but on the basis of the situation. How does the rule apply to the situation? So therefore, that's what Shulchan Aruch does. And of course, Moshe Rabbeinu was told by Hashem to teach it in such a way where it would be clearly understood by the people. And as the people of our nation, the Jewish people, would present these laws through the generations, down from one generation to the next, from parents to children, to grandchildren, to great-grandchildren, all the generations, it would all be taught in such a manner. Which of course means what? That there's nothing more priority in life than Jewish education. You gotta learn. If you're not learning Torah, then you don't know. You don't know the laws. You don't even know the basic laws. How much can you possibly put them into given situations if you don't know the basics? So you gotta learn. And of course that means that teachers have to be prepared to teach. And that was Moshe Rabbeinu's first task. He's the first teacher, he's the first Rebbe. He's Moshe Rabbeinu, our Rebbe. And he's the first to be able to put it down in such a manner in which the people will understand the rules. What's interesting, of course, is that if you follow the parashas that we've been reading over the last weeks and the various Shabbats that we had in the synagogue, you will notice that most of what we have been reading is about the amazing story of the Jewish people's emergence as a nation. First rule we learned about in Judaism is Jews suffering. That's the first rule being a Jew. In order to become great, you need to go through trials, tribulations, difficulties, and handle situations. You need to learn how to do that. And so therefore, we went through slavery in Egypt. That was Parsha Shmot. Then, of course, we went to Parshas Vayero, where we saw that if we only trust in Hashem, we will emerge and become a great people. And those that perpetrated evil against us will be so punished. There is such a thing as law and order and fairness in Hashem's world. And therefore, in Hashem's world, there will be punishments for those that do wrong. You enslave people, you will get 10 plagues on your head. And a whole lot more suffering. A whole lot more than what you did, you'll get worse. The third parsha, Parshas Bo, talks about the Jewish people emerging as free people, celebrating Pesach, and Zman Cherutenu, the time of freedom, and the idea that the Egyptians were powerless to stop us. And we celebrated by killing their God and sacrificing their God to our God. And they were powerless to stop. And so we see that righteousness triumphs. In the next parsha, B'Shalach, the Jewish people leave Egypt. And in leaving Egypt, they face the fear of the Red Sea in front of them, and the Egyptians coming after them to chase them and harm them, and maybe take them back as slaves. And God makes this great miracle, and the sea splits. If you don't believe it, go to Universal Studios and see how it's done. And then after that, the Egyptians figured, well, the sea split, right? So they just went straight through and boom, sea didn't split anymore, and they were done. So the Jewish people, of course, sang a great song of praise and thanksgiving to Hashem, and embraced a new era in their existence. In this new nation's existence of freedom, they sensed Hashem with them in a total, miraculous, protective form. And so therefore, there was no doubt that the Jewish people are on the march in this accomplishment of statehood and nationhood. And now, last week's parsha, the Jewish people reach their destiny when they come to Mount Sinai. And they're coming to Mount Sinai, to Har Sinai, they come, and they, in that sense, they are. Now, I'm going to confiscate your phone in 10 seconds, too. Take yours away. Anyone want to give me all their cell phones? Take them all. I take all phones. Want me to take yours? No problem.
You have none.
Okay, I've got yours.
Just to be clear, I'm taking notes.
What?
Just to be clear, I'm taking notes.
Take notes.
That's all I'm doing.
Okay. All right, so anyway, the Jewish people are this tremendous nation, gone through suffering. Hashem protected them, punished those people that were harmful to us, the Mitzrayim, the Egyptians, gave us a Pesach of freedom, left Mitzrayim on the way to Har Sinai, and our destiny, the Torah. Without the Torah, there's no purpose in leaving Mitzrayim. If you don't celebrate Shavuot, then there's no purpose in celebrating Pesach. That's what it's all about, who we are. So we get this Torah, and it's a magnificent moment, and the mountains ablaze, as we learned last week, and Hashem revealed himself, and out of the 10 statements. And we come to this week's parsha, and it's all about laws. And let's see some of the laws. There's the laws of civil law, the laws, and take a look, by the way, if you want, with me on the margin. The law of the Jewish bondsman, the slavery, sale of a daughter, murder, manslaughter, killing of a slave as they move forward, penalty of bodily injury, death caused by an animal, a pit, an animal damaging property, one who steals livestock, self-defense payment for theft, damages caused by livestock, laws of showroom, watchers, and so forth and so on. No point in going any further right now, but it's all about how people do business with one another. And so, the question is, why is this parsha right here? Right after all of this excitement has occurred to us, and we become a people with Torah, why are these laws now introduced? What do you say? Never rub your nose when your hand's ready to go up. Why are we discussing laws now?
Now a relation.
Huh?
Now a relation.
Okay, so therefore,
Because they are also going to
When you're a nation, you need to have law.
you have laws, okay. So why does this come immediately after the giving of the Torah?
Immediately after.
Because when they go to the promised land, they need to settle down and they can.
Okay, I understand that, but why does it come immediately after the giving of the Torah, all these laws?
Because they are a natural extension of the Torah.
That's right, because that's where you'll find them. You'll find them in the Torah. That's what the Torah is all about. Now take a look at the first passage. Look what it says. And these are the ordinances that you shall place before them. What word is wrong in that pasuk? What word is wrong?
I think the God.
The vav is wrong. It doesn't belong. You don't start a sentence with an and. You don't start a chapter with the word and you don't start a whole parsha, a whole new story with the word and. And there's a conjunction at best. You know your grammar. And is in the middle of a pasuk, not in the beginning of a pasuk. So what is and doing here? Imagine we're going to, now remember and, by the way, is in Hebrew one letter. But all prepositions, who knows what a preposition is, right? Those prepositions are those things that, begin phrases. All prepositions, all beginning words of a thought in Hebrew are all letters. There's no word for them. If you want to say the word in, that's b. If you want to say the, that's ha. Ba bayit, ha bayit. You want to say and, that's vav. Va bayit, la bayit, ma bayit, mea bayit. I mean, again, the bays, the bet is two, or the bet is in, I should say. The bet is in. The hey is the vav is and, the kaf is like, kamo, right? The lamed is to, the mem is from. All these letters are all words in English, but in Hebrew, they're all letters. So now I'm going to learn an entire message out of one single letter. But in order to do that, you need to find that the letter is a problem in the first place. The vav is a problem. The and is a problem. It doesn't begin, you don't begin a sentence with a vav. So what are you really doing? What you're really doing, friends, is you're not beginning at all. What are you doing? Continuing. You're continuing. You're connecting. You're connecting last week's parsha to this week's parsha. The Torah that was given in last week's parsha governs all those civil laws, which means this: don't use human logic anymore. No more human logic. No, why not? I mean, if you want, you got a head, you should use it. And the reason that you can't is because, you see, when you have a message from Hashem, you have God's wisdom. God created the world. God created people. God created situations. God teaches you how to handle them and to handle them properly and to make it work. In order for them to be able to be functional and successful for all people in the world, as for the entire group and every individual, the rules are set down by Hashem. Now, a builder builds a house. So he builds the house, and in the house, he's got a whole bunch of things the way they work, Now to build, let's say a switch, a light switch over here. So if you're gonna go over here to open the light switch, it ain't gonna happen. You gotta follow what the builder did. The builder, right? You're a builder, right? You know all about that. So therefore, your builder put the switch over there. You gotta put the switch on. You gotta, I mean, you gotta be foolish to do not the way the builder set it up. You've met such dummies in your life. Well, I've met a lot of dummies too, believe me. Reality is that Hashem set up the laws, and our laws are set in by divine wisdom. So let's understand how divine wisdom works. Much more than how human beings attempt to try and make judgments and rules. Now, the first thing we learn here is about taking a slave. So if you buy a Jewish bondsman, that means a man who is bonded and becomes you're bonded to you, means he's your slave. But wait a second, we just said we're against slavery. We just freed the Jews from slavery. So let's understand what that means. He shall work for 6 years, and in the 7th year, he shall go free for no charge. What does that mean, folks? He's not much of a slave, is he? How many people have worked for a job for 6 years and then gone on to another job in the next 6 years? People go on to different jobs all the time. A slave is when you're a slave forever, stuck. No, he's not a slave. So why is he called a slave?
You bought it.
No.
Oh, because you bought him. Okay, so what does it mean that you bought him? It means, frankly, that he's in a lot of trouble and you want to help him out. How did he get himself into trouble? He got himself into trouble with big debt. He owes $600,000. How did he end up that way? Well, he maybe bought the wrong thing, things didn't work out, had bad luck, whatever it is. But he owes $600,000 and he's stuck. Or he went and did something even worse. Since he was so desperate for the money, he went and stole $600,000. Well, either way, you owe it. Now, if you don't pay it, then it's just as bad as robbing a bank. So make no mistake about it. Either way, you're a thief. And that's a very bad rule. Why? Or a bad thing to do. Because we know that, first of all, it's one of the rules of the 10 statements, lo tigno, you're not allowed to steal. We also know that it's one of the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. It's one of the 7 rules of Noach that applies to all the world, to all the Goyim. We also know that when the world was created, Hashem decided to bring a flood to destroy the people because the people were lo nechtam gzardinam el ala gezel, because they were stealing. A society can't survive when it has no respect for the individual's privacy, for the individual's personal possessions. So therefore, it had to bring a destruction to the society, and the whole flood destroyed the world. So we're teaching here off the top the very basic function of how human beings are going to deal with one another on a business level, on a social level. This being the case, we learn that in case the man is ended up in debt with $600,000, along comes a big tzaddik, very holy, righteous man. And he also happens to be blessed as a very wealthy man. And he says, I'll do you a favor. I'll take you to work for me. And when you work for me, you will work for 6 years, which means simply, I'm going to pay you $100,000 a year. Except, I'm going to pay you up front. So that you can take that $600,000, because I can afford it. I have no problem. I can afford $600,000, not a problem. I want you to take that $600,000 and give it to the person you owe it to, or to the bank you owe it to, or to whomever. Everybody's debt is now satisfied. You work for me. During the time that you work for me, I have to treat you in a proper, respectable manner. I can never give you work that is shameful, or work that is without purpose, or work that you're not talented in. I can't shame you in any way. Also, you have a right to stay with me and you have an obligation to stay with me, you can't go anywhere, but you can bring your family with you. Now, understand that the singular thing here that's really restrictive is he can't switch jobs for 6 years. Now, there's 6 years is the idea, of course, of the six days of work, and the 7th day being Shabbat, and the 6 years you work, and the 7th year you go free. During these 6 years, if for some reason or some way he comes into money, he can buy his way out and not have to fill up the whole 6 years. If for whatever reason, in the middle of this 7 years, and there are 6 years, the Yovel, the Jubilee year comes, then he goes out free, even if he's only worked for 2 to 3 years, which means he's made a lot of money during those 2 to 3 years. But the point is that he has a restriction on him. Now, the Torah teaches, if he arrives by himself, he leaves by himself. If he's a husband of a woman and his wife, he leaves with him. So in other words, he comes with his family and leaves with his family. If the master gives him a woman and she bears children, the wife and the children belong to the master. So he doesn't have to do that, but if he does, he has to remember that they don't belong to him. And he should go out by himself. But let's say, verse 5, the man says, I love my master, my wife, and my children. I shall not go free. So that his master takes him to the court, brings him to the door, and his master knocks a hole in his ear.
It's not the nose.
Huh?
The nose.
No, the ear. Why the ear? Yeah, that's what it says. What is it? Why the ear? Because the ear was the valuable organ that was used by the Jewish people at Har Sinai. And Har Sinai, God said, I am the Lord your God, you shall have no other gods before me. You shall have only one master. And therefore, this one is a temporary master. You want to violate that? Why do you want to violate that? Why do you want to stay a slave? Because it's comfortable. It's easy. I'm making all this money, and I got a cushy job. He's treating me real nice. Gemara says, you know what? Guy says, the master has only one pillow that night. Gives the pillow to the slave. He sleeps without a pillow. He has only one chair. The chair goes to the slave. The Gemara says, Misha kana eved la'atzmo, kana adon le'atzmo. Man who buys himself a slave bought himself a master. Why would a man do this? Because he's righteous. Because he wants to rehabilitate this guy. Because he wants to teach him how to live in society. Living in society does demand independence. Does demand that you be able to function on your own. And not be a slave and be totally subjugated to other people. And you have talents, you have abilities, you have skills. Get out there and do something. Open a store. On the other hand, you don't want to do that. You want to stay here in this cushy little job, and it goes real easy like, and you're comfortable, and everything's relaxing. So we say to him, you did a bad thing. Rather than being strong and proud and independent, you want to be a slave. That's a wrong thing. So therefore, we understand, however, the Torah understands that you don't have that independence or that ability, or you're afraid of the real world outside. So we take you over to the doorpost, then a mezuzah. And at the mezuzah over here, inside the mezuzah says, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. God is one. There's only one master. You want another. You're doing the wrong thing. And your ear should hear that, because your ear was at Har Sinai. So therefore, what do? What we do is we take him and clip his ear. You see that? See all those guys going around with earrings? All slaves. All slaves. Right? Hi, slave. Want to be my slave? Come on over. This new wave of earrings. No, it's not the nose, it's the ear. Now, the truth is that this function is the absence of the function of a jail. In other words, what would America do with such a guy? Put him in jail. And when you're in jail, you're not with your family. And you're treated like garbage. And on top of that, you hang around not with a righteous master who will teach you the Torah and rehabilitate you, make you into a mensch, but rather with a whole bunch of other hardened criminals who'll make you do worse crime when you get out. So at the end of 6 years, when you finally do get out of jail, you're a worse criminal, and you're more hardened than ever. Oh, thanks for rehabilitation. Look how the American system don't work at all. Look how the system works so beautifully. Now, if a man has a daughter, and he wants to take the daughter and make her into he wants to sell her away. Why does he want to sell his daughter away for? That's a terrible thing to do. Maybe not. Because man's got a large family. Very large family. And Hashem, 10, 11, 12, 13 children, which is an average family for Jerusalem. Hashem, we have a small family, we only have 5 children. Baruch Hashem, we're grateful. By the way, this week, just to share with everyone, Mazel Tov, the Blocks have a new baby granddaughter. Right, Monday, my son and daughter-in-law had a baby on Monday. Baby girl, as a matter of fact. They're 5th, and everybody should do more. And but it does get to be sometimes a little financially burdensome. So what do? Money never stands in the way of children. Never. There's no way, there's no reason for families and parents and husbands and wives not to have as many children as possible as God gives them, health permitting. But what do with the finances? So there's various ways of handling it. One way, of course, is to make sure that you teach your children not only Torah, but you also teach them a livelihood. But that's for your sons. What about your daughters? Your daughters are your main concern. I mean, these young men are going to grow up and go out into the world and do what they have to do. Women need to be protected. Of course, in our society today, I mean, women go right out there to jobs, to this, to that, Who needs protection? Who wants to get married? Who needs your mother and your father? Of course, on the other hand, if you want a job in Hollywood, then you can be subject to all the abuses that kind of profession offers. And frankly, nearly every profession has its fair share of abuses of women. So you really have to realize that the society that equalizes opportunity for women at the same time equalizes taking advantage of them and exploiting them and using them for opportunities so that you can get ahead or you can have your fantasies while the women get ahead. And now they come back 20 years later and say, well, this guy abused me, Yeah, but at the time you were interested, weren't you? Because you really wanted that job, didn't you? So again, we have certain restrictions in terms of the kind of jobs that we allow our daughters. We do not promote the idea of artistic creativity in the Hollywood scene. That's not one of the things that we tell our daughters to do. Teaching, nursing, many other wonderful professions, but not that is in the entertainment industry. That's not one of our besides, we don't even patronize the entertainment industry. I mean, anyone who has a television in his house probably has a toilet bowl in his house. Because the problem is that the toilet bowl usually is covered with the door. The television isn't. And that's unfortunate because you got all that junk. Imagine a person moves out to the valley. Why does he move out to the valley? Because after all, he doesn't want to downtown where all the bad elements are. So he likes to live in the safety and the security of the valley. But then he has to go downtown and go to work. Okay, no problem. As long as my kids can grow up here. So he'll drive 40, 50 an hour, 40, 50 minutes an hour to get to work. As long as his children are protected from downtown. Of course, that's all his children have to do is turn on the television and see the latest news, and they get all the garbage of downtown right in front of their faces in their living room. And so, the reality is that you want to bring your children into a safe environment. Nothing is a more safer environment in the world than school. Well, I take that back. I take that back definitively. I wouldn't send a child to a public school if it was the last place on earth for that child. Public schools. Boys and girls, this, that. Drugs, gangs, chains, guns, knives. A little smoke over there. Now it's legal today, tomorrow it's illegal, today it's illegal, tomorrow it is illegal. I mean, these are things that are very foreign to our society. We don't get into this stuff. So therefore, we have our children in a Jewish school. In the Jewish school, we have our teachers and our rebbeim, and they get their fair share of secular education to be able to know the basics of how to run a society and run a household and run a business. But at the same time, the extensive impression, the extensive total focus is on your Jewish studies, on your religious studies, and on the learning of God, of Torah, and how to live properly in the world. And so therefore, in the absence of schools, what you might do with some of your children is you might find some rich tzaddik, you know, that same rich tzaddik that helped out the man who owed $600,000, that very fine, righteous, upstanding fellow, who would be glad to take your daughter on in his home, provide her an education, and at the same time guarantee her safety and protection. And that's what really this is all about. The selling of a daughter is protecting her and giving her a safe and comfortable environment with a holy, righteous family. If it is too difficult for your family. This doesn't happen all the time. In fact, it happens rarely, but nevertheless, it is an opportunity to make sure that this young lady can have a chance at life. Now, you know that Avram sent Eliezer to find a wife for his son Yitzchak. And he sent his servant back to the old country. And of course, he found this wonderful girl named Rivka, who really had very fine qualities. She was kind, she drew water for him, she gave water to his camels. And she had enough intelligence at the age of 3 to know that she wanted out from where she was living. And that's a very beautiful thing to remember, that our youngsters really need an environment that's safe and healthy, and frankly, a good school or even a good family if necessary. Oftentimes, many Chabad families, as you know, are sent by the Rebbe to far off in the middle of who knows where to teach Torah, right? And there's no Jewish schools for their children. So they teach them online till they're old enough, maybe in their early teens, and then they often go to New York or the yeshivas and other Beis Yaakovs and seminaries and so forth. But in any event, this young lady goes to this fine family. And she shall not leave like the other slaves, says in 7. Now, if let's say, for whatever reason, he doesn't want to keep her, right? He could have designated her for himself and married her if he so chose, but she has the right to refuse. He shall assist her in her redemption if he doesn't want to do that. That means he has to help set her free. He has no power to sell her to a strange man, for he has betrayed her. Now he can designate her for his son. Well, that's swell. Maybe they work out and they like each other, and that's a good shidduch, that's swell. But he shall deal with her according to the rights of the young women, which means he is not to tell his son, well, you can have this slave woman as your wife. She is a regular Jewish girl like any other Jewish girl and entitled to all rights. What are those rights? Take a look at it. It says in verse 10, If he takes another, and he wants to have, let's say, her and another wife, which he may have, though it's not recommended, he shall not diminish her food, clothing, or marital relationship. He remains fully committed to this relationship. So that means what? That means that any form of marriage maintains a husband's obligation to the basic big three: food, clothing, and shelter, and of course the responsibility of the husband to be with his wife and to provide for her the sexual relationship that she deserves, and the marital relationship. That means that husbands and wives are governed by Jewish law in terms of what they are responsible for to each other. And it's therefore so provided in every marital relationship with a document. The document is called a ketubah. And if the ketubah after it is written and filled out for the particular couple with the names and the date and the place of the marriage, the ketubah is then presented by the after signed by the witnesses and the chatan, the groom. He presents it to his bride. The bride takes it for herself and must maintain it in full safekeeping. If for whatever reason at any given time it is lost, the couple may not live together, and she may not allow him in that house until such a time as he provides a replacement document called a ketubah. No man shall ever live together in the same house with a woman in which she does not have that protection of that document.
Sorry, what did people do after the Holocaust?
Well, an interesting question we should bring about, of course. There is, of course, as you know, the proviso for replacement ketubah. And I've done a number of them, and lots of people at that time did that as well. And that's called the ketubah the irkasa, in which a document is provided as a replacement, provided that both husband and wife will admit and will testify to the court that they are married. If one says we're married, the other one says not, then you got a problem. Yeah.
There's actually a big challenge facing our country right now. I was listening to NPR, and I heard
NPR?
National Public Radio,
Oh.
and they were talking about how there are now blended family lawyers in the United States because they don't have documentation for their rights, and when these blended families, like three partners living under the same roof, decide to divorce or split up, what happens with the custody of the children? It's a big mess, but there's a new set of divorce law litigation.
Well, I don't know much about that. I mean, the only blended thing I know about is a blended cup of tea. I mean, I don't know much about blended families.
Rabbi,
Right.
if the ketubah is lost or destroyed, it doesn't actually break the contract.
No,
It
not at all.
just
The
introduces-
obligation is still there.
Exactly.
The only thing the document does is verify it.
Okay.
That's what a document does.
So the only challenge is that sort of interruption in the relationship.
That's correct. Which can be good. Which, I mean, again, it's happened to me many times that the couple comes and says, they lost their ketubah. So I pretty much, to be honest, have broken appointments to meet with those couples to guarantee that they shouldn't have to be separated. I'll go out of my way for that, and I'll change appointments just to meet with this couple and write the document again for them. Yeah.
Women has ketubah.
All right.
Women has ketubah, right?
That's right. What are you protection for? You're a man. You're a man. Well, you talk about a prenup. The fact is that the ketubah, its main function, besides the maintenance of responsibilities during the relationship, is post-marital. In the event of a divorce, or in the event, God forbid, of passing away of the husband, there is proviso in that document for money to go to the woman for the years of dedicated a dedicated wife that she was. She has to get money and alimony to protect her and take care of her. Okay, in any event, take a look at top before 24:21. She leaves free of charge without payment. That means what? That means that the other guy, let's say the manservant, right? He ended up being a slave because he owed all his money. He could get out early if he pays off his debt. Let's say if he comes into $300,000 after 3 years, he gets his way out. Or let's say he works all 6 years for all $600,000, he's worth the full amount. But for the woman, for this young girl, she goes free. She has to pay nothing. The moment that there is no obligation to her in a marital sense, in other words, the owner, the father or the head of the family that's adopted her, let's say, does not want to maintain her or for his son, and then assume no responsibilities for her, then she goes free and she has to pay nothing. She's a totally free woman and has a total freedom as any other Jewish girl. Now, the Torah then continues and talks about death. And it says there that if a man hits another man, strikes him, and he dies, so he's put to death. This message, of course, is repetitious from the 10 Commandments we learned earlier. The message, of course, is that confirming what we had said last week, which was that every one of the 10 statements is punishable by death, including the violation of murder. Murder is also punishable by death. We learned last week that all of them are punishable by death because all of them reject God. The reason that a murderer deserves death is because since he took a life, it's as if he believes that Hashem gave life, but he has the right to take it, which is just untrue. Only he who gave it can take it. So therefore he denies Hashem. The denial of Hashem automatically guarantees with you a death penalty. The denial of God, you cannot live in this world. So now we understand that he should be put to death, and the Torah, what the Torah is doing here is not repetitious at all, because you might ask the question, why did the Torah repeat itself? The answer is no question at all. The reason the Torah did it is simply to confirm the point that death is occurred in this kind of violation and in many other violations that we shall soon see. However, in the next passage we will learn that another sort of murder does not carry that same penalty. But for one who does not lay an ambush, and God has caused it to come to his hand, I shall provide for you a place to which to flee. What is that all about? What happened here?
It's not murder.
Oh, but someone died.
Yeah.
Right, but it's not murder. Is it the same Hebrew word as the
I mean,
other statement?
no. Here the situation occurred that an accident occurred.
There's no intention.
There's no intention.
Knowing.
Right. So it's not premeditated, and it's not the same evil as we understand it to be, and it's a tragedy. But there is a punishment. Why is there a punishment? Not only that, but there was a behavior of irresponsibility. If God forbid you're involved in a car accident, right? That's an irresponsibility. There has to be a certain level of responsibility for life and the way you conduct yourself. And if you conduct yourself in a manner that's lacking caution and care, and therefore it's a mistake, this happened, then Hashem is telling you a message that you're not a responsible member of society. So therefore the punishment is what? What is the punishment? To what? So we send him away. We provide him a place to flee. Now what does it mean, a place to flee? That means number one, there is a place where he will be protected, where he can be protected. He should not deserve the death penalty. And therefore he should live. We call these places Orei Miklat, Orei Miklat, the cities of refuge, the cities of trying to save yourself. These cities were designated, there were 6 cities designated in Israel. And when the Jews marched into Israel 40 years later, 6 cities were so designated to be Orei Miklat. There's people that lived in the Ori Miklot were generally people who had this kind of problem. However, these people didn't go alone because they were encouraged, they were told that life is not going to be as miserable as it might seem. Because why? Because you go with your family and you'll go with perhaps other situations or other people maybe. It won't be horrible. Yet it is, nevertheless, a penalty. What's the penalty? Penalty is you can't go out. Just like the slave couldn't go out for 6 years. There's restriction is a sense of what's the word? The restrictions are denying you your freedom. Freedom basically is what? Access, moving, mobility. I want to hop on a plane tomorrow and go to Israel. Pay $1,000, go to Allah, boom. It's a little more expensive, $1,300, whatever it is. whatever Allah does for you on that given time. But the point is, you have that right. When you don't have that right, there is a form of constriction, and that's painful. The constriction is so painful that there's a story told about David HaMelech. On his deathbed, he told his son Shlomo, who's going to take over the kingdom, that there's certain people that have been enemies to me all these years. I want you to take vengeance against them after my passing. One of them, I'm not sure if the name was Shimi Ben Gera, maybe that was the name, I don't remember, was told, David told Shlomo, Aseh kechochmatcha, do in your wisdom, you'll know how to do it. Do it in a smart way. So what he did is he took this fellow, Shlomo, and he said, you can have all the goodness of life, kol tuv shabbat, but you can't leave the confines of the city. Made him crazy. Eventually he did, and that's when you're able to kill him. The same thing with the man in the city of refuge. He can't leave. Now that's restrictive. That means you can't go here or there or see this or see that or whatever it is. And that's really, really very painful. And we understand this to be painful because, again, it's almost like a form of kidnapping, like we talked about with Yosef, where your world is taken away from you. You live in this city, and all of a sudden you got to change to that city. And you go there and you're fleeing. What's fleeing mean? You're running. Who are you running from? Who are you running from? You're running from those known as the Goel Adam. Who's the Goel Adam? That's an avenging relative. A man's brother, heaven forbid, was killed in this terrible accident. The Goel Adam is the man's brother, the surviving brother, who wants to kill the man that hurt his brother. And he has a right to. In other words, if he catches him, he can kill him and not be held for punishment. So that guy needs to protect himself. The Ori Miklat, he can't go in. So the man who committed this accident runs as fast as he can. No delays. Your life's at stake. And get to that city of refuge. Once he's there, he's protected. So this imprisonment becomes a protection of sorts, which is what's known in Hebrew as a mishmar, where you're watched, cared for, and protected. The man stays there. And the Goel Adam cannot touch him anymore. If he were to do that, then we would prosecute the avenging relative, the Goel Adam. So, in reality, this man is protected, at the same time restricted, at the same time justice is being meted, and at the same time he is protected but has to suffer at the same time. And all this gives you an understanding of how perfect Hashem's justice is. Yeah.
What about the pilgrimage festivals? Can he leave for those? No.
He's stuck.
It's not.
What's the only thing that can give him his freedom?
Isn't that the Jubilee year?
No, the only thing gives him is freedom, and
Oh, it's when the high priest.
when the high priest dies, when the Kohen Gadol dies. What?
או יובל, זה יובל, שנגמר.
No,
מה?
no.
באמת?
It's just the high priest.
The Goel Adam, the Kohen Gadol. Only the Kohen Gadol's death will free him from that, from the Urim Mikvah. In the meantime, some say, what's that Kohen Gadol stuff? Many people try to work on understanding the logic behind it. There really isn't, in the sense that it's really Xerat HaKatuv. It's what the Torah writes and what we simply accept. It's one of those things that we just don't know the answer for. Though there are people that are slavered with trying to figure it out. But the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, of course, they say that the mothers of the high priest would come and provide great delicious meals for all the people in the cities of refuge so that they shouldn't pray for their son's death. And that's what is brought down in the Gemara. But the interesting thing is that man is told that you will live there. You may not have the greatest of lives, but you will survive. You will live. Well, one of the things that's loving and it's important to live in this world is Torah. Torah's Chaim. Here I am with my family, but I need my Rebbe. So they forced the Rebbe to come and live in the city of refuge for him. What about the Rebbe's 25 other students? They bring them too.
Why?
And the whole yeshiva, the whole class comes to this cities of refuge, just for this one guy. How does that sound like justice? And the answer is, basically, if you're a Rebbe of such a guy who ended up doing this kind of thing, you didn't teach him well enough, and he needs you, and all the students as well, all his classmates deserve to be there as well, because they should have been more on top of this fellow and seen that he was a loose sort of guy. In any event, this is an example of trying to understand the Almighty's judgment. But what happens in verse 14? If a man acts intentionally against his fellow to murder him, so then from my altar you shall take him to die means, what?
You're gonna kill him.
You're gonna kill him. Well, we already said that. So what are we saying? What are we saying new here?
You said, if you did.
No, that's the same thing. Makiyish v'meit mot yumad is the opposite of la shalot tzaddah. So the chiyazid is the same thing as makayish. So we already said the guy dies.
Oh,
So what are we learning brand new here?
So the Mizbeach.
Oh, that he has to be taken from the mizbeach. What does that mean?
Even if it's in better.
What does that mean? That means that justice and judgment takes place. This kind of judgment that is what we call life and death cases, capital punishment, are to be dealt with a beit din, with a court that sits in the chambers of Beit HaMikdash. In other words, most of the judgments that are major issues confronting the people in the society were dealt with in the Beit HaMikdash in the Temple of Yerushalayim. Meaning what? Meaning that we should understand that all justice, all civil law is not a human issue, it's a godly issue. And furthermore, it is to be taken from the holiest place on earth, from the place where all the sacrifices and all the service to Hashem is made, that holy Beit HaMikdash in Yerushalayim. That's where the court sits. There's no Beit HaMikdash, there's no court. If there's no court, so then that court cannot operate anymore. That's why we don't have a court anymore that can handle civil law. But let's understand that our laws today are governed in monetary issues by a local beit din, whether it be in Los Angeles, New York, or other Jewish communities, or in Israel. Laws of marriage and divorce also dealt with the beit din particularly, but the laws of serious matters, such as life and death, and one's more serious than the other, but these are heavy issues, need to be only in a Sanhedrin, a high Supreme Court, which sits only in the chambers of the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. Now, we have here on 15, and we have the prohibition that you can't strike your mother or your father, you shall be surely put to death. This striking of a mother and a father in verse 15, if you look at the commentary on 421, the bottom, on the right, on the extreme left hand, it says, verse 15, one who strikes his mother and father. Of course, if you strike anybody and put him to death, then you are liable to put death penalty. What's the difference of mother and father? Look what it says. It says there is a difference. One who strikes his parents is liable to death if he caused the bruise, even if he didn't cause a death. Which means that can a man who is a doctor treat a parent? Can a man who's a doctor administer a blood test to a parent? And the answer is no.
No, but if there is no other doctor.
If there's no other one, we understand. But basically, off the top, it is forbidden to do. And of course, that's pikuach nefesh. Pikuach nefesh is dochel kol haTorah kula and overrides everything. But in the most optimum form, it is different than an ordinary assault. An ordinary assault, says the commentary, you pay damages. Here, if you cause a bruise, you could be liable for the death penalty. That's 15. 16. The Gonei Vishu Mechoro. Who did this one? Kidnaps a man, sells him. Who did that? The brothers of Yosef. And it's found to be in his power, shall surely be put to death. We said this. We said that the prohibition of kidnapping was expressed specifically in the 10 statements. And when it said don't steal, it meant don't steal a person. That's what the death penalty is there. Why is kidnapping punishable by death? Because not only, we explained this many times, not only is death a situation where you're removed from the world, but also where the world is removed from you. And if you're taken away from your place, from your makom kavua, from your familiar surroundings and your family and your friends, and all of a sudden sent far away into a foreign land and kidnapped and held hostage in whatever fashion, that is tantamount to death. And in such a matter, the penalty is death. Yes.
So I have a question. The Torah often speaks about kidnapping also in forms of spiritual kidnapping, like when someone's out of the secular Jews considered kidnapped. That way too, right? Because you're out of your environment.
Well, anybody was, yeah, but that is for anybody. You just can't kidnap people, whether it's secular or religious.
No, I'm talking about the spiritual kidnapping, because the Torah talks about someone who was
Spiritual kidnapping.
Yeah.
How would you do a spiritual
But the
kidnapping?
spiritual kidnapping is if you
Great
take
time.
a Jew, immerse in the secular world, he's not in touch with the Torah, he's not in touch with Jewish people.
Okay, so?
So the Torah refers to constantly as kidnapping too.
And what do we do when we kidnap them?
No, not you, but it's the other way around. The secular society kidnaps a Jew and immerses them in the secular culture.
I don't know if we would actually use the form of kidnapping as such. I think what we would use is the concept of a misleading or brainwashing, or where you misinform people and you try to get them to do wrong. And this is the rule that we taught this some time ago as Lifnei Iver lo titein michshol. Don't put a obstacle in front of a blind person. Jews came from Sephardic countries, and they came to Israel, for instance, and they were told that if they maintained religious affiliation, they wouldn't get jobs. Or they were told if they maintained religious observance, they would not be able to be to part of society, so to speak. And then the pressures became too big, and the demands of society and maybe even the influences, particularly of the young, teens and so forth, and a lot of people began to abandon their religious heritage and began to become more secular Israeli. Okay? That is an issue of lifnei ve'el titei mechshol. You're putting a man in a difficult situation which he cannot resist, and therefore you've placed obstacles in front of him to continue his religious observance, and in such a way you've misled him. And that's a spiritual misleading. I don't know if it's called kidnapping, but it's a misleading of sorts. The Torah continues. verse 17, the prohibition of cursing parents. Mekal aviv v'imo. So what we learn from here is that either this is equally a death penalty, and the sense of the prohibition is such that there has to be a realization of the value of parents and the appreciation you have for your parents, Hakaras Hatov, which is also, again, is a repetition to some degree of the concept we learned earlier, confirming that honoring parents is a long life and the opposite is a premature death. Now there's an argument going on in verse 18. And one hits a man with a stone or with a fist, and he doesn't die. But he falls into bed. That means he is he's in the hospital. I mean, you broke his neck, or you broke his leg, or whatever it is. You know, there was a serious physical assault here. So the ruling is, if he gets up and gets up on his own power, so then there is no payment except for the lost time of his work. However, he should also provide for the doctor bills for the healing. What it really boils down to is that there is what we call 5 payments that are obligated anytime you hurt another person. And those 5 payments are Nezek, Tsar, Ripui, Shevet, and Moshe. Nezek is the basic damage, in which, let's say, he now has less function of this particular organ because of what you did, and we have to make an assessment as to how valuable that organ is based upon the man's occupation. If he happens to be a runner, a track, and he's a sprinter, and you break a leg and he can't run anymore, and it could cost you $1 million, maybe more, because the guy lost his livelihood. Secondly, you have to pay for the tsar, for the pain. And the pain also requires a definitive way of assessing the payment, particularly in terms of the difficulty that he may have now in being able to go to different places and show up and so forth. The third payment, if damage and pain, is the doctor bills, as we said a moment ago. The fourth is shevet, which means that he's out of work, and for the time that he's not able to get back into some degree of employment. And the last one is boshet, where it's shame. Maybe he's embarrassed the way he looks, he's disfigured, he lost a leg, he's got to go in a wheelchair, he's got to walk around with crutches, whatever it may be. All of these things have to be taken care of on a monetary level. Which means if you hurt another person, it's going to cost you a fortune. Probably everything you own. You may even have to end up owing him money, selling yourself into slavery to pay off the debt that you owe to this guy. So it doesn't get paid very smart to get into a fist fight. It also says, "V'rapo yirape," he shall be healed, and it says it 2 times to teach you that Hashem's healing is also permissible through the vehicle of a doctor. The usage of a doctor is therefore not considered a lack of faith in Hashem. To the contrary, Hashem has provided doctors with wisdom and bodily knowledge and biological information to be able to help you get healed. So if a person stands around and says, well, I don't want to go to the doctor because, or take medicine because I believe that Hashem is going to take care of me, such a person is not believing in Hashem properly. Such a person has, in fact, demonstrated his lack of faith in Hashem. The faith in Hashem is that you are to use all that is available to you, including the doctor. But that goes back to the whole basic sense of what is faith in Hashem. Faith in Hashem is to do your best at what you're capable of doing. The fact that Hashem gave you talents, abilities, this, that, and that. Go out there and get a good job and work well and be successful and be loyal to your employer. Do the right thing. Be honest. And make good money. But remember, at the end of the day, at the end of the week, when you get your check, look at the signature at the bottom. You'll see it says God. Hashem guaranteed that. Every single dime a person earns in this world is already predestined from the year before on Rosh Hashanah. Mizonotav shel adam tzuvim b'Rosh Hashanah b'Rosh Hashanah. The amount of money a person is going to earn in a given year is absolutely set up and total amount based upon the sense of what Hashem judges for the coming year. Be successful, he won't be successful. Mi ani, mi Hashem. Who's going to become wealthy? Who's going to become poor? Who's successful? Who's going to be unsuccessful? All that is determined by Hashem, and the person has to believe that. So if a person believes that, why would he work extra and take away time from time he could spend with his family, or time he could spend by learning Torah, or time he could spend keeping mitzvot, or Shabbat, and so forth? I know Saturday's your biggest day. And the reality is that you will not be blessed by that day. And so, of course, one man went to a Rebbe and said, Rebbe, you know, my business is really down to tubes. I don't know what to do. No one's answering the phone. No one's calling. I'm getting no customers. I'm really in trouble. So the Rebbe said, here's what you do. Tomorrow morning when you go to work, at 12 o'clock, you put your phone on the answering machine and you open up a Chumash and you learn for an hour. Well, you got nothing to lose. I mean, I don't know how much he believes in the Rebbe, but he's got nothing to lose anyway. So at 12 o'clock, the phone hasn't rang since 9 a.m. So he sits down at 12 o'clock, opens up the Chumash, and the moment he opens up, the phone starts to ring. And at 12:10 it rings again. And at 12:20 it rings again. And at 1:15 it rings again. And at 1 o'clock when it's about ready to start, back to work, it rings another time. See, he answers all the phone messages that were left, and he fills all the orders, and he had a good day. The next day, 9 to 12, nothing. 12 to 1, the phone rings off the hook. 1 to 5, he's filling all his orders, making a lot of money, doing well, listening to the Rebbe. So he goes back to the Rebbe and he says, Rebbe, how did you know that this was going to happen? Rebbe said, simple. Because the moment you start to learn Torah, the evil inclination is going to want to make you stop. And it's going to want to make you get into the temptation. Don't follow the temptation. But the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara, he comes after you like a gangster with a knife to your back. And he's coming after you. Understand? He's coming after you.
Especially when you study.
When you learn Torah, oh, every single possible distraction known to mankind, the Yetzer Hara came up with. I'm sitting and learning. This happens, that happens, this happens, that happens. This phone, that phone, this. Get these stupid phones out of here. At least for an hour. At least for an hour. You understand? Understand that everything's from Hashem. So the Gemara says, "Mizonotav shel adam tzuvim mirosh shana ad rosh shana." Every year you're going to be determined how much you're going to make. This year, it was written in Shemayim and Rosh Hashanah, you're going to make $100,000. But there are two exceptions to the rule that don't affect it. One is the amount of money you spend on Shabbat and the amount of money you lose by not working on Shabbat. That is not part of the deal. So let's say you lose $20,000 and you're destined to make 100, you're going to end up with 120. Let's say you end up with another 20 to spend on Shabbat. Good food, fine clothes, delicious this, that. Come in. Oh, 140. And the one other exception is the amount of money you spend on your children's Jewish education. Hotza'at, Talmud Torah, Banav U'Banotav. The amount of money you will pay for your children to learn Torah, that money will be returned to you exactly the amount you pay. If you pay $10,000 in tuition, you get $10,000 back. You pay $5, you get $5 back. Simple.
Shabbat is not double?
No, it doesn't double. It's the same thing. It just it goes through the wash. You're a little hungry there.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Just a question.
Time's up.
Is there any difference?
What?
Yes, there is a difference between the level of studying, as far as the mitzvah, to study Chumash or
No.
Gemara?
No.
No?
Any form of learning is already Torah.
Oh.
Could be that it's more positive for you on a personal level of growth to go through the Gemara maybe. But it doesn't matter. That's a decision your Rebbe has to make. But to tell you what's best for you. But insofar as the time spent, that's the main thing that counts. The time spent. Hashem lo moneh dapim u'moneh shaot. One guy took one page of Gemara, took him 10 hours. The other guy took 10 hours, took 10 pages, right, in 1 hour. Who gets more reward?
We should have
The first guy. So understand, Rabbi Rabbi, that you have an opportunity to see a doctor. Well, let's say a person feels that maybe he has an intiyah. He has a certain gift which he wants to become a healer or a doctor. He has a certain humane feeling about him that he wants to be in the human services or in the services of health and care. Certainly should become a doctor. But the doctor has to remember that it's not him. Thank you, Hashem. There's a Mishnah in Kedushin that says, Tov Sheba Rofim L'Gehenim. The best doctors go to hell. You know why?
Because they think they're God.
Because they think they're the best. A doctor has to know his limitations. He has to understand that he can't make decisions. Well, we should pull him off the plug. We should, he's gone, he's finished. Right? I mean, the guys in the vegetation state, whatever. Well, you're going to play God, you're going to kill a guy. A better idea. Don't pull off the plug, shoot him. The gun's easy. The reality is that you have to have trust in Hashem. Whether you're the patient or the doctor or the nurse, you have to be there, and you have to have a good bedside manner, and you have to feel for the people, and the people have to be appreciative to the service you provide and to the fact that Hashem provided you as His servant to serve you. That's how you understand the concept of the message of healing. Now, we only learned one chapter here, 19 passages, and there's so much more to learn, as you well know. There's so much to learn here that you could probably spend 2 months on this parsha. So you do the best you can with it, you figure it out, you try your best. But understand that all of civil law, all of human law, all of that's supposed to be logical has to fit into the logic of Hashem. Has to fit into the logic of the architect who created the universe in the first place. And if we work within his system, there will be success. And there will be health and survival. But we have to understand that anyone that understands this from a perspective of a personal gain matter goes nowhere. Everything's from Hashem. Every healing's from Hashem. The bracha that is made, or the prayers that are made in the synagogue for the ill are just as valuable as the doctor himself. So someone tells you, please, I'm going for a procedure tomorrow. I need your prayers. Will you be here for me? Will you say a prayer? Make sure you do that. If you go to the shul, make sure that the name is submitted to the people at the time of the Torah reading, so that Mishaberach can be recited. And that this way you can thank Hashem and beseech Hashem for the health. And that goes for parnasa, for anything else in life as well. And that's why everything in life on a living experience must be spiritual, must be godly, must have an understanding that is religious. If a person simply lives a religious life in a spiritual manner, but not in a civil manner, that's what we call a dichotomy. That's a split personality. It's schizophrenia. A person is shul on Shabbat and worships with all his heart, but he cheats in business on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Schizophrenic. That's not a proper religious person. He's a schizo.
He's a nut.
Right? He's half a Jew. Now another brother says, I'm going to keep the rules of Ben Adam L'Chavero, to man and my friend, and keep all the social laws and all the decent laws and all the fine laws that deal with humanity. But I haven't got time for the synagogue on Shabbat. I haven't got time to keep all the other mitzvot. That man is half a Jew. He's not doing the fullness of a dual relationship. Ben Adam L'Makom and Adam L'Chavero, between man and Hashem, between man and his friend. Your question.
Well, thank you so much. I'm sorry.
My pleasure.
So could it be, this is like the old Rambam, free will versus everything's divine sort of thing. But I never asked this, but you inspired me to ask it, so thank you. But I can ask the wrong question about when you say, quoting the Gemara, that everything is set in terms of parnasa on the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, does that mean that there are sort of like Google Maps of how much parnasa we could get if we went this way or that way, and if that's set? Because I feel that.
How do you use a Google Map?
I don't know, but that's how I teach my youth about Veshei Rap, because it's very
Google?
hard. What?
Google?
Yeah, because they get this more than these sometimes. I don't know, like it's so hard to teach that there's Veshei Rap, right, free choice. But if you let's say you're supposed to start here and end, I was born in New York and I was supposed to end up in California, but I went to Florida. Anyway, long story, but
I never figured out God would get me out here in California. I'm still in Brooklyn. I can't figure it out. But I'll tell you this: insofar as children are concerned, the most important thing they need to learn from earliest on is that life is full of choices, and it's their choices, and there are good ones and bad ones. And the essence of children learning to make the right choices is what works. So in a classroom, if you make the right choice to behave properly, you get this reward and that reward, and so forth and so on. I mean, that's simple.
But it's not like I'm going to make $125,000 with my child this year, no matter what I do or don't do. Like if I sit on the couch and just...
That's a great question. That's a great question.
That's what I mean.
That's a great question. And the answer to that question really is this. Do we say that God, in His infinite wisdom on Rosh Hashanah, made the decision based upon what He knows you're going to do this year? Are you going to sit on the couch or do your work? Or do we say that you can change it and make a determination in the middle of January?
You can change it.
So the answer is as follows. And again, I say this without authority. I don't want to come over some great religious thinker or religious authority and say, well, I know exactly what God's going to do. That's really presumptuous. But to the limited basic understanding that I have, Hashem's judgment does take into effect or into account much of what He sees for your future in the coming year. But the choices that persons make can uproot that, in the sense that tshuva and repentance is possible all year round. Yes, it's confined to Rosh Hashanah. Yes, it's confined to Yom Kippur, and to that holy, holy moments of life. Anyone who doesn't take advantage of that period of time is really not making right choices. I mean, these are the choices. I wrote a paper on it, and I'm glad to give it to you, on why the time of Elul and Rosh Hashanah and Kippur is so choice, and why it really works so effective. But it's not to say that it's tshuva and repentance and change and choice is ineffective the rest of the year. It's simply to say that Rosh Hashanah and Kippur works better. It works better. A person who wants to do tshuva is not not an easy task. Changing, becoming a better person, it's a tough task, believe me. I tell it to you on a very deep personal level. It's so hard to change a bad habit. It's so hard to, Rabbi Salant used to say, it's harder than splitting the Red Sea. The great miracle of splitting the Red Sea. That's how hard it is to change and become a better person. In the smallest manner. I say to myself, I gotta get to bed earlier. I gotta get up earlier. I gotta be on time for the davening. I shouldn't have to skip the davening. And I make that commitment every day, and every day it's another challenge. It's not easy to really put yourself into a new zone, into a new mode of behavior. Though, it has to be argued that if you do and make that initial effort, the repetition of it makes it easier. No doubt about that. I am not going to speak Lashon Hara about somebody else ever again. Yeah, famous last words. Famous last words. Oh man, you know that guy. We all do it. But if we keep on struggling, keep on fighting, sooner or later, we do break through. So, tshuva has to be understood as the toughest thing. That being the case, Rosh Hashanah and Kippur is the greatest gift that God ever gave mankind. You can't think of a better gift than that. Those days of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are days that are so special, so holy, so beautiful that I simply, all my other activities are pushed aside. Call me next month. I'm busy. I'm davening. I'm learning. I'm doing tshuva. I'm busy. This is my time. Time I got. Can you do it in the middle of February? It's tougher. It can be done. I mean, human beings listen. I mean, you can really make a change, and people can change. The proof of that is the difference between humans and animals. Dogs will never meow, and cats will never bark. They're stuck. We're not. We can say what we want, we can do what we want, we can think what we want. We want to become better people, we can. We can do it. It's within the human can. So, obviously, as I say, yes, it is predetermined to a great degree, but there is always that power. I mean, you can make changes. You can, and kids should be encouraged to that too. Kids been miserable and bad and a rotten kid in the corner all year long. Makes a change. Give him every shot at it. The Almighty will give it to us. Why should we give it to our children? Anyway, so that's this week's Parsha Mishpatim. All the laws from Hashem. Trust in Hashem, and you shall succeed.